up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican. Hey, I got a topic I want to talk about. I was debating some Germans with it, and at that moment I was debating some Germans on matters of language and why English is such a popular language globally. A whole thing's kind of popped into my head as to why. And I kind of passively know it, but I never made it an active thought process on breaking down why English is so popular. And it also actually destroys my statement, my argument. It also destroys the SJW. English is a imperialistic language, and that's why people are learning it, because it's an oppressive language of the oppressive oppressors. No, it's not linguistic imperialism. It's not even really popular culture. It's not Hollywood. It's not the music. It's none of that. It's just the simplicity of the language. Now, you might think, man, this is lame. No. English puts more worth and value on context as opposed to content when we're talking about person-to-person or general conversation, and communication. But other languages, in specific, since I was having this conversation with Germans, lays more value on content than context. Germans are very content-driven people. When it comes down to language and communications, very precise, very exact, like their Mercedes and Volkswagens. Everything is exact and precise. This is how Germans communicate. And I put this forward to them, and they were like, "No way, that's not true." And I was like, "Yes, it is." I said, because I know specifically because when I try and translate American jokes or some of our, our little statements that we make, our little colloquialisms and whatnot, Germans look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? They literally this guy what is he saying? They literally think I'm talking madness because what I'm saying makes perfect sense in English contextually, but to a German, they have no frame of reference, what I was talking about in my last video, to understand what I'm talking about. And then I have to stand there and explain the entire process of what I was trying to say. And then they're like, yeah, I have to explain the context to them because they're not thinking linguistically from a context perspective. They're looking from a content perspective. And so after debating this point with them, they're like, no. I was like, look, you guys speak fluent English. I was like, so you have you have an idea now. When you've dealt with Americans, the movies, the films, and whatever else, and you've dealt with it from a standpoint of you understand what's going on. That might sound like, what did you say? They understand from a standpoint of understanding. You just said they understand English. But no, understanding that people speak from a contextual standpoint. Now you might think that also sounds crazy because you're like, they're just arguing with you about or disagreeing with you about that. No, this is just something that happens passively. This is not something that happens actively to you. One day it just sort of clicks and then you start understanding. Now here's the thing. I gave them an example. I said, okay, I'm going to give you an example. And I literally did this example right here. And some of the viewers, they can confirm this. I said, I'm going to make up a saying and I'm going to send it to random people on my WhatsApp and they're going to respond and understand what I'm talking about. And I was like, no way. I said, yes way. I said, watch this. So I said, and this is what I came up with. I said, it's darker than a cat's armpit out here. And I sent that on WhatsApp. Everybody except two people I sent it to were like, yeah, where? What happened? Is it a moonless night? My ex-wife, and she's German, she said, where? Behind the house? Because we live in the same house. We live in the same apartment building. Everybody understood what I was talking about, even though I just made that up. You have never heard it's darker than a cat's armpit out here. You never heard that before today, because I just made it up. I made it up at that thing. And they were literally okay, wow. And they had to agree that Abuamerican was right. When you are speaking to people, I said it in the past, I don't say it much these days, but I always say, language drives culture. Language is part of culture. Language is a primary part of culture. And that affects people in massive ways. Even behavior. it can stem from language. And this is probably why the West is having so many problems, because, their language allows for or disallows for certain, thought process to take place. Generally, it allows more than it disallows, because Western societies are more permissive societies, and we see this, because LBGT, transgenderism, and all this other stuff is a big thing in the West, but not in other cultures where that can get you killed. This is driven by language and the ability to communicate ideas and concepts freely without consequence. Like it or not, this is not really a good thing. That freedom, there does need to be restrictions. At the same time, these restrictions need to be cultural, even though language does play in the culture, but not in a sense. You know what? Actually, this is a new concept that I have to think about. So let me stop there, because I have to think about how can you limit cultural influences, foreign, ideas and concepts that are what's the word? Homegrown ideas. They come from that culture and they come from those people, but it needs to be limited. But since language is driving this, and language is part of those people's culture, how do you prevent that from overtaking your culture? This is a whole concept I got to think of, actually. So let me save that for later. But nevertheless, if you know multiple languages and you really think about what I'm saying, then you'll know that I'm right. Despite all the crazy grammar rules and pronunciation rules and whatever else that English contains, because it is a mad language that takes from, it's a bastardized language that borrows from, its origins are Germanic. It borrows from Latin, French, and a whole bunch of other, the Hispanic languages, and it's cobbled all together to make this one language called English. That's the power of English, because it allows you to expand your contextual understanding, of situations, or communicating your situation or concept contextually, and even contentual. In terms of content, you can be very specific also. It's a very, very flexible language, and this is why it's so popular, and it will be for quite some time. Even if the empires of the West fall, the English-speaking, empires of the West fall, English is going to be a language just because of its, its ability to convey ideas, concepts easier than other languages. And I know this for sure, because I try and convey concepts and ideas that I have in English in my head that make perfect sense into German, and it doesn't work. So anyway, if you speak multiple languages, I think you'll understand and you'll know that I'm right, even if you feel more comfortable speaking your native language if it's not English. I don't know, maybe that's boring. I don't care. It's something I thought about. This is your man, Abuamerican. Catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Steam it, all that. Abuamerican. I'm out.